The year 28 BC was a significant turning point for Rome. It was a year that saw Gaius Octavius, known to history as Octavian, not just as the victorious leader who ended decades of civil war but as the reformer who would shape Rome's governance from the inside out. The position of censor, steeped in ancient tradition and carrying immense moral authority, became the tool through which Octavian sought to cleanse and revitalize the heart of Roman politics, the Senate. This momentous period marked his transition from a war leader to a stabilizing force and reformer, laying the groundwork for his future as Augustus. The context: Rome's fractured political landscape. The aftermath of civil wars. Rome in 28 BC was a city still healing from decades of turmoil. The civil wars that had started with Marius and Sulla, worsened by the power struggles involving Julius Caesar, Pompey, and later Mark Antony, had shattered the old political norms. By the time Octavian defeated Antony and Cleopatra at Actium in 31 BC, the Senate was a shadow of its former self, overrun with loyalists to various factions, opportunists, and men whose loyalties had shifted like the tides of the Tiber. The Senate's loss of prestige. During the late Republic, the Senate had lost much of its power and prestige. The violence of political purges, such as those led by Sulla, and the dictatorial control asserted by Caesar, had rendered the Senate a mere pawn in greater games of ambition. By the time Octavian emerged as Rome's leader, it was clear that the Senate needed restructuring to restore its role in governance and align it with the new order he envisioned. Octavian's assumption of censorial power. Why the role of censor was critical. The position of censor was one of the most respected offices in the Roman Republic. Entrusted with maintaining the moral fabric of society, the censors were tasked with overseeing the census, managing public morality, and, most crucially, revising the list of Senate members. By assuming this role, Octavian signaled not only his intention to reform but also to assert a form of moral authority over the state. The reactions and expectations. Octavian's move to become censor was met with both relief and anxiety. For those who had seen the decay of the Senate, this was a sign that order and tradition might be restored. For others, especially those who feared losing their senatorial status due to dubious loyalties or actions during the civil wars, it was a time of great unease. The purge and reformation of the Senate. The census and the reduction of senators. Octavian began by conducting a detailed census. This was not just a bureaucratic exercise but a strategic review of who was fit to be part of Rome's legislative body. From a body swollen to over 1,000 members, many of whom were installed during the chaotic years of civil war by various strongmen, Octavian sought to streamline the Senate to a more manageable and dignified size, reportedly around 600 members. Criteria for purging senators. The criteria for retaining or removing senators were grounded in loyalty, conduct, and reputation. Those who had demonstrated wavering allegiance, engaged in corrupt practices, or failed to meet the moral standards set by Octavian were purged. This act was not without controversy, as it often led to accusations of bias or personal vendettas, but Octavian was meticulous in ensuring that it appeared just and impartial. Appeals and clemency. Understanding the potential backlash, Octavian allowed for appeals from those removed from the Senate. In some cases, he showed clemency, allowing senators to redeem their status through acts of loyalty or contributions to public works, thus reinforcing the image of a leader both firm and fair. Structural changes and their impact. The role of new senators. Octavian did not merely remove members, he also reformed the criteria for entry. New senators were appointed based on merit, military distinction, and loyalty to the new regime. This move introduced a blend of old nobility and capable new men who shared Octavian's vision for Rome's future. The Senate's renewed function. The streamlined Senate was given a clearer role within the new framework of governance that Octavian was building. While real power remained in the hands of Octavian, the Senate was granted a revived role in legislative and judicial matters. This move placated traditionalists and made the shift to imperial rule more palatable. Public perception and propaganda. The role of literature and art. Octavian understood that public perception was as vital as the reforms themselves. The act of purifying the Senate was lauded through art and literature. Poets like Virgil and Horace subtly wove themes of renewal and order into their works, presenting Octavian as a restorer of Rome's former glory. The symbolism of tradition. The reforms were steeped in symbolism. By acting as censor, Octavian aligned himself with figures from Rome's storied past who had restored and led the Republic to greatness. This imagery was vital in promoting the idea that Octavian was not a tyrant but a restorer of Rome's values and traditions. The road to the empire from Octavian to Augustus. The reforms of 28 BC set the stage for Octavian's elevation to Augustus the following year. The moral and political authority he amassed during this time provided the justification for what would come next, the transformation from the last ruler of the Republic to the first emperor of Rome. The legacy of Senate reforms. These changes had long-lasting effects. The Senate, although it never regained the power it held during the Republic, functioned more effectively and cohesively under Augustus. It became an integral part of the governance system he established, which balanced autocratic control with the illusion of republican participation. Conclusion. The lasting significance of 28 BC. The year 28 BC was pivotal. It marked the moment when Octavian, through strategic reform and unparalleled political insight, reshaped the Senate and, by extension, Rome itself. This act of purging and restructuring was a clear message. The chaos of the Republic was over, and a new era was dawning. The reforms were a crucial step in his transformation from Octavian to Augustus, the architect of an empire that would endure for centuries.